Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today, I'm very excited about this guest. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for, I'm saying years now, man.
Yeah,
I think we've known
definitely.
each other for a long time on the scene.
Yeah.
We've gone back together, boy. But I feel like you're somebody that I've never actually sat down and had a good conversation with. We've always been sort of working when we're around each other. Like,
Yeah.
you're putting on the night or I'm doing my poetry. I'm like, oh, mate, you've done amazing. High five. Good to see you. And then it's like, I've got to go. And I'm so happy that I've managed to get you on. So
Thanks very much for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Ashleigh he sets up events, he's a graphic designer, he does web design. We're going to touch upon everything that you do. Welcome to the bus, Ashleigh Jones.
Thank you very much for having me.
I need to get like a big woo and like
applause
yeah, a big applause on. But Ash, thanks for being here, man. Now we're in mad times. We're in,
Yeah.
we're in COVID,
COVID
days.
world.
How have you been holding up, brother? Because you're a freelancer, you constantly working, constantly promoting, but you know local businesses are struggling at the minute. How are you feeling?
It definitely has been difficult, yeah. Like, I work as a part-time graphic designer in a local little print shop in Nottingham. And obviously that's shut. And then freelance work, I do graphic design, web design, little bits and bobs for all sorts of different clients. But all of that's dried up as well because they've been closed. Nobody's really got the expendable cash to kind of make anything happen. So I have kind of been losing my head at some points a little
Yeah.
bit, thinking, oh no, both my revenue, like incomes, even the events world as well, has totally stopped. So all of these platforms have stopped, which I've built my life around. And I have lost my head at least once
Mate.
in this, I have to admit. But I'm starting to see the light a little bit more. People are starting to get a grip of this new life and how to handle it.
It was like you were saying in the kitchen, though, man. I was sort of opening up quite like getting into like what's happening, like getting built up, and you were like, yeah, but we're all in the same ship, we're all in the same boat, and that
Yeah.
kind of it always calms me down a bit. I'm like, yeah, I'm really getting invested in myself here, my own going-ons. But all my friends, all the business owners, all the self-employed people are feeling this shake at the minute. So it is finding ways of being a community, coming together, thinking of outside the box methods of what we're going to do.
Yeah, so this is it. I've been doing a few little jobs from home for my local print shop. People that have needed, say, funeral programs and like, I don't know, posters, business cards, etc. That they're trying to plan ahead. So I've done a few little designs for my boss.
Just
But
straight up as well, where can people find your stuff? Because it is very good.
thanks very much,
No,
man.
it is. You're basically our printer and designer now. That's who we're going to keep going to because I just love your designs. It's quirky and it's different and it doesn't feel corporate. I love it. So
yeah,
where
so
can...
maybe I've got a little bit of a different style, but you know, I've learned a lot from other people over the years. But I have my own portfolio, ash-jones.co.uk.
Beauty.
And then I work for a little print shop just as a graphic designer printer in Hyson Green in Nottingham. And I love doing stuff for small businesses. So I've worked for some giant corporations over time as well. I've produced stuff for Harrods and
Got a few on the list and they were
Disney,
impressive.
and I've put touchscreen. I've worked on projects where we've got touchscreen kiosks outside Man City football ground,
Wow.
which was a good little achievement.
That's cool.
So I know like millions.
How did you
of
get that
people.
job? How did that come about?
That was working through C Tickets.
Okay.
So C Tickets have a whole IT division as well, and they build like custom ticket solutions and websites for big companies.
Wow.
So that was a good like opportunity to work on that, and I learned a lot about football clubs and kind of like Coventry City, how they kind of operate, and but from doing those, I kind of found a new respect for small businesses as well. Big corps, they want it done in a very particular way, and they're very picky. When I was working for Boots, for example, I built a lot of website for Boots.com, and
Okay.
the Irish Boots website as well.
Wow.
But it took me about 2 months once to change the colour of a button on the website, just because of all the red tape in the background. So I was trying to achieve it was my job to make the website look consistent across the whole thing.
Sure.
To make sure we were using the right shades of colours, the right styles, and so on. And there was this one button on maybe like the About Us page that was different to the rest. So that kind of bugged me as a little designer and OCD Ash moment. But it literally took 2 months to get that button changed to
Wow,
the Boots
yeah.
blue button. It should have been.
Just
I know it doesn't mean a
little
lot to some people.
scratch
but
on the back that you just can't get to.
Whereas, if I was doing a website for you, change it now, job done.
Wow,
And small
okay.
businesses appreciate the quick turnaround.
Sure.
And they're not out there for money grabbing reasons either.
I'm glad you have that side to you though, and you are a perfectionist and you want things done perfect and right. Because I always say this to you, and I have a laugh about it. But when me and Chrissy on the buses were having a the Christmas market it was, and I brought out the poster, and I can't believe the amount of piss I got taken out of me by all my mates. We're just like, what is that poster? And I think you saw it, didn't you? And you were like, Mikey, and you say things in the nicest of ways. You could have just gone, you're a numpty, what are you doing? But you're like, yeah, I like what you've done there, but do you want me to have a go at your artwork? And
Well, this is it. It's a bit of a battle sometimes because I'm not the best in the field. Like, I don't claim to be, but you see people around you that perhaps maybe they need that little bit extra help. But it's about going about it in the right way. So I can't just tell you, Mikey, your thing's crap. let me make something better. That's not how you go about things in life. Like, I would like to offer my services. I've got this ability, maybe we can work together and help progress you a little bit further. It's not to say like, your thing's terrible, but there's always better that can be achieved.
it could be improved on. And
yeah.
that's the thing at the start of having a business for me. I thought I had to be number one at everything. So I thought doing music, I needed to get into the mixing, mastering, I needed to learn all that. I needed to
yourself.
get into the film. And it was genuinely spinning too many plates and I just couldn't keep up with it. And as soon as I was like, oh, Ash is really good at this, or oh, I know somebody who can really mix and master perfectly, why not get people in on it? And then you can focus on what you're good at.
Yeah, totally. I suppose they do it in larger corporations as well. They get people that know their skill and know their field, and then everyone comes together for a greater project.
And when you're working in, say, a big corporation, like you've done Disney, you've done Boots, you've done the football clubs, when you try and show off your little bit of creativity that's yours and you want to implement something that you're happy with and proud of, do they sort of try and rein you back and say, no, stick to the formula, stick to what we know?
Certain people do, but yeah, a lot of them have their own platforms, and rightfully so. If you built your brand up for many years, you want it to be done in a particular style. But I've recently done some freelance work for Disney and Hard Rock Cafe as well.
Wow.
Gotten
That's
through a
so
friend
cool.
that's in Vietnam from another guy in America. So we're kind of working all the way around the world. And I've just designed some touchscreen kiosks for like custom T-shirt printing. They might have in like hotels and cafes and stuff.
So glad we're having this chat, man. After the podcast, I'm going to be sat down like, right, who do you know? Where can we go? What?
But like they gave me free reign on that. So they gave me a few assets of kind of what the end result product was going to be. And they just asked me for my skill and what I think would be best. And again, I don't claim to be the best in the field. There's surely the people worked on it for many years. But in my head, I think I've always got a clean idea of what the customer wants as a consumer myself.
I can honestly say you're the most humble in the field that I've ever met.
Well, I don't know. If you toot your horn for too long, then you're going to slip up.
Sure.
And people
Sure.
are always like, well, what about this and what about that?
But I do like your approach, man. Honestly, I've been to business meetings a lot of the time, and I'm trying to build a brand or do a logo design or anything, and that Del Boy approach to me scares me off a little bit. It's like, I can do this for you. I've worked with, and they'll name drop loads of names.
Yeah.
And I trust that they're good, and I trust they know where they're at. But having somebody as honest and as humble and as calm as just to say, you know what, I do know what I'm doing, and I'll listen and I'll try and create your vision. That is such an admirable thing that is quite rare. It's a rarity.
Well, thanks.
yeah.
I take compliments really badly, but this is again like to certain clients. I wouldn't mention Disney. I wouldn't mention Harrods. I would maybe, again, without name dropping, I might just tailor the conversation to suit them. So I've done things for small cafes and pubs and events and people all across Nottingham and the country. But I hate name dropping as much as the next person. And but certain people, like, it takes that in the business world.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
I got given this job for Disney and Hard Rock Cafe just off the base of a friend knowing me for who I am, rather than me having to prove to these American guys what I've done in the past. When they found out about my past, as we were already working on the project, they were like, you know, even better.
Yeah.
You know, we've worked for these companies before, you know what the deal is, so it went down really well.
And when you've been given, say, a local business who are starting up fresh and they're not very sure on what they want, do you really like that when you're like, okay, like I can create something from nothing here and I've got full range and full spin on this?
Yeah, I love the freedom of like a new business. A lot of time, I would create 3 or 4 different styles or 3 or 4 designs and ask you what you're happy with. I don't want to just give you an end result that I think is always best or something you're unhappy with. Like,
Sure.
I couldn't live with myself if I designed something you weren't happy with.
That's also as the business though, like I've said to you, Ash, I'm having this event, but I don't really have any ideas for you on how I want the poster. When we get it back as the business, it's so exciting and refreshing because you're like, oh my God, like I couldn't have even imagined that. That is just like totally out there. So
It's nice seeing that result, like, or, you know, that reaction, because like I'd never know what to expect. There's always that nervous kind of energy in me, and I'm there designing something thinking like, what the hell, this is crap.
So-
what am I going to show them?
And at school, was with computers your everything? Were you just a little like, I'm going to say the word nerd?
Oh yeah, I was a geeky guy back then. Yeah. Since I was about 12 years old, I remember always being involved with computers. My dad's a computer programmer. He has been for like HMRC. He helped write all the tax code programs. I've always joked with him, couldn't he have just like commented us out and say we don't have to pay any tax? But he would be in prison right now.
Yeah, we've got to do like a little note. This didn't happen. I'll write it on.
Yeah.
This never happened.
But when I got to secondary school, this was a good while ago now. I'm 31.
What?
I'm 31.
Ladies and gentlemen, doing
Do I not look it?
doing this podcast, I always learn. I'm constantly learning, and that's one of the biggest bombshells of all time for me so far. That's amazing. I honestly thought I was older than you, man, for such a long time.
I would see people as the same age as me, whether we're 25 or 35. I always have that feeling around us. So.
It never really matters. Like age at a certain point is a number, but you know, the only thing we've got different is life experience, or like how long we've been on the planet is the only thing different. But it does strike me sometimes because Chris is 10 years older than me.
Right.
So yeah,
I wouldn't expect that either.
Again, age is a number, but it did make you feel like what? And yeah, it shakes you up a little bit. You're like, whoa, okay.
But yeah, I've been like learning to code and to website design for a long time, and when I got to school, secondary school, I found that I knew more than the teacher.
Yeah.
So the head of the IT section got me in, and he asked me to design the intranet website. So back then, you know, you got the background in your school when you first log on, what you see, and everyone's get presented with this little like dashboard almost. So I designed that for my old school BRJ. And it was done in Dreamweaver, and it was like basic code, but it was the best thing they ever had. And I was like, how can I, as a year 8, like know more than everyone else in the school? And again, that wasn't tooting my own horn. It was just through experience, and I learned, and eventually, you know, I kind of coded a new version for him every year.
Was that part of your dad's teachings and stuff then? Would he show you things on the internet that when you got home?
A little bit, but it was more that there was always a computer in my home.
There you
like,
go.
Even more so than like before mobile phones.
And you were just doing at home your own learning and just inquisitive and curious and sort of like, I wonder how this works. And
yeah, so like I'm not massive on all technology, but computers especially really like was a wow moment for me. It's like this has the potential to change the world, and it has done.
It really
Like,
has, and it is.
That was when like you had 56k modem that was screeching in the background, and you couldn't go on the internet without your parents finding out, because they can't use the phone and it's making a loud noise.
I was watching a YouTube video yesterday, and it was just the noises of nostalgia, and you can listen to it, and it just all the old noises you remember, and that one came up halfway through, and I was like, turn it off, turn it off.
But then my dad was one of the first that I knew to get broadband as well. It was 512 meg. I can't remember the company now, but we had broadband, and then the day of Windows XP coming out, my dad got it the day before everybody else, because he went to the shop the night of the release and they were stocking the shelves with this brand new thing. Now again, this sounds really geeky, but that changed the world again. Like all your ATMs will work on Windows XP, and all these computers work on these like old Windows styles, and that was around for a long time, and that's what got most people like into computers, and it didn't seem like a completely alien world. Obviously Mac came along and it's a little bit more user friendly, but Mac is a whole other ball game for me. I'm not a supporter.
Are you not? I don't know enough. Again, I'm from a family that the polar opposite of yours. I think they were a bit sketchy and skeptical of the internet coming out. They were like very reluctant to get a computer before. They were like, well, what information are they getting? What's going to happen next? And they had these questions. So we didn't have a computer for a while, and then it came in, and I'd probably just watch porn or something like that.
I think we all were when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
But besides that, I used to play a lot of video games, and there was even more stigma back then as well. But when I was like, I don't know, 14, I used to go out and skateboard for half the day and then come home and play Counter-Strike. And then I got what I think was good enough that we went to cash tournaments and stuff.
You were in tournaments with Counter-Strike?
Yeah. So the old Counter-Strike, like 1.5, 1.6, we're talking a good 10, 15 years ago.
Were they monetized tournaments as well?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Tell me about this. This is a new world.
Yeah. So look, we travelled down to Reading for this tournament called Multiplay. It's probably like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people at certain ones, and
I'm getting like heart palpitation and excitement about this.
It was good fun. Like, I'm not a sporty person. Well, maybe I was when I was a kid, but I'm not a super sporty person other than skateboarding. So we had a little team together, played with people from Sweden and so on. I used to have a friend in Sweden who used to send me money every month just so we could buy this server. And again, this is really geeky, but we went and played where we could have potentially won about £25,000, got into the semi-finals.
Well, that's where money comes from. If there's a market for it, and if everybody's behind it, then that's it's going to warrant proper sum prizes.
Well, nowadays it's even more than it ever was, and now the Olympics is potentially going to be replaced with the E-Olympics this year, because we can't have physical people meeting up and doing sports. So there's millions, there's millions of pounds in this video game world that it's just ridiculous. And
but it is interesting because I work in schools and in the education sector. And when the teacher sort of shouts at a student and they're talking about FIFA or they're talking about Fortnite, there's this old and new school battle going on, and there's, like you say, millions of pounds being spent into these industries, people streaming it on YouTube, getting all these clicks and likes and views, and the world's changing.
Totally has, yeah.
And to go, that's not a real future, that's not a real job, it's not
the case anymore.
It
no.
really isn't. And I'm really learning on the spot at the minute about this world, and I'm fascinated by it. So I want to be open to, where is this turning? Where are we going? How can you make profit and money from this?
Well, there's big, talking in like for kids nowadays, there's big money in e-learning and certain types of games that are beneficial to kids. Like, I have to admit, I had an unhealthy obsession with Counter-Strike when I was a kid. You know, your mum shouting at you because you're smashing on the keyboard all night long, and effing and blinding.
Yeah.
But I think it made me who I was. It gave me a lot of like teamwork and leadership skills. I even used it for interviews later in life. You know, I'd be having a job for a web designer perhaps, and just saying, you know, I've connected with these people around the world and led them, and we've developed and trained for certain things. And again, it might have sounded really geeky to them, but it gave me opportunities and progressed me as a person.
What's your anti-Mac stance then? Can I hear a bit about that, or why you're not so fond on this product?
To begin with, they got rid of the right click. It was a single click. I'm like, what are you doing? You slowed me right down. And everything was swapped. I think, obviously Mac has been around for a long time, the roots of it, but everything was just mirrored to what Windows is. So your close button is on the opposite side of the screen. They just seem to change too many things, which just seemed to slow me down.
Sure.
And of course, you can't quite code in the same way on a Mac. It operates differently. You don't hear of many Mac coders. It was all about Linux when I was a kid. Windows and Linux, which is like...
Is that still going?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's what runs a lot of systems around the world. Obviously, some people might just think of it as like a hacking machine, which I perhaps maybe did use it for a little bit sometimes.
It may do that.
But it's still very big, yeah, and it's free. All of it's free and open source. It's always been a background to be an accessible platform for people.
An interesting note on what you're saying as well. Like Chrissy works in a school, and there was a kid in year maybe 8 or 9 who bought this device which could hack the school computers essentially, and he brought it into school, and he probably told the wrong person. And it came out, but then this kid got expelled, thrown out of school. All these things happened to this particular child, who's being a massive, interesting, forward thinker. And to go to that child, you're a bad person, you should be sent out and do all that. I would love it if they'd gone, right, you're clearly very intelligent, you're clearly a thinker. Can we utilise this in a certain way?
Well, big businesses definitely do. Like, the top hackers around the world are employed by some of the biggest businesses. They're like security services. So they'll tell them like what their vulnerabilities are, and then help fix them. They could use it for bad. It's kind of like a little superpower. You can use this knowledge for bad or for good.
Good or bad in all sectors
and they
of
really
life.
should like help people, help kids out, especially progress on this.
I was a little disappointed in that story. I was like, he seems like a genius.
Yeah.
Like he needs to be nurtured.
Definitely, and like there is some aspects where a lot of people are getting a lot more proficient with computers now. They're everywhere. You see a little kid with an iPad and it knows more than I did when I was 15. But yeah, we really need
You
to
see
nurture
babies trying to enlarge books.
Yeah. I don't know how they know these things, but they learn from people around us, and I believe a little bit of this, like, monkey see, monkey do, or say, like, we progress, like, pass down knowledge almost to one another without even knowing it.
I've heard Elon Musk podcast recently, and he's talking about the future, and he believes genuinely in 5 to 10 years time we won't need to use our words to communicate anymore.
I recently saw that as well, yeah.
Man, honestly, my heart sunk, but my mind just went like that at the time. And again, we have got fear towards change, haven't we? It's like a natural thing about humanity, or it might be unnatural actually. Change is constant, but the reluctance towards it seems to be a natural thing for me. Like I like where I'm at, and I know what's going on, and as soon as somebody drops something like that, I'm like, I'm not going to sit around the campfire with my mates anymore and have chats and play guitar. But yeah, he was like, no, you will be able to do that. That'll be for fun.
There'll just be another aspect to life, and like if we see humans as always progressing, this is a logical progression. Like technology, maybe to be in symbiosis with it, not just to suddenly become cyborgs and robots and let it take over. But there's so much technology that can help us out, and the moment like we free ourselves from a lot of these I'm not going to say mundane jobs, but certain jobs that could be taken away by robots, this will help us to have more free time to progress ourselves and live our lives. So I can see what he's trying to do, and other like technology people, but it's just a transition into it. People are scared, people are worried, the change is happening.
And what a beautiful look at it, the way you're saying, like, you know, packing chocolates, let's say, or dishing out food with not very many nutritional values. There's certain, like McDonald's, let's say. If that could be automated, if that could be robot, like given that job, then those people in those, we can go, oh no, people are going to lose their jobs. Or we could go,
jobs will be created elsewhere, definitely.
These people can look at their passions and look at how they can pursue them goals that they've got, and not have to be fulfilling them. What was the word you used for the jobs?
I said like mundane.
Mundane, yeah, okay. I like that look at it. I like to go on that side of the fence. Interesting. Because I didn't know this side about you so much, because I've only known you through the party scene, truthfully. So going and hearing your interest and passion and how much you know about technology. When I see you at parties now, I'm going to really dive onto that table with you and be like, right, tell me what's happening.
Well, again, I'd love to chat about all that side more. Obviously, it's always progressing. It's like a world where technology changes all the time. Like, look at your cameras around you. I remember I got one of the first digital cameras there was, Canon 300D.
Yes, that's progressed now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've still got that camera because the base and body and the lenses are pretty similar to what you've got now, but obviously technology gets smaller, more compact and better. But that was, what, £900 back then? Now you can get an equal or if not better camera for a fraction of that price.
100, 200 quid.
And
yeah.
it's in the hands of everyone, and it's great to see that progression, definitely.
I just learnt recently, do you know, like, you've got HD that films it in like 1080p and 4K everyone's talking about and excited about, and then 6K. I didn't realise that just means the image picture's bigger.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
It's like having a bigger monitor.
Yeah, that's what... So much learning in technology, but the one thing that I've really experienced is so many mistakes, and a mistake with a computer can be really costly.
It can.
I've lost a lot of work.
Yeah, I have cried when I've lost files.
Can I ask, like, have you got a memory that springs to mind of like your worst time of like the computer nearly went out the window?
Well, one of my hard drives died.
Same.
And it was a built-in hard drive. Maybe I've had it for a while. It was clicking. You know, I should have done something about it.
I'm talking half an hour.
Yeah. I should have done something about it, and then I gave it to my dad to try and recover. Because if anyone could fix it, it would be my dad.
How did it? Because the hard drive's got like a disc in it, hasn't it?
It is the spinning disc.
And then it's got something reading it, like a vinyl player.
Yeah, like a laser.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is like a CD drive, really.
Right. So that's when that starts clicking, you're like, alarm bells.
Yeah, you should definitely back up all your stuff.
Yeah, sure. I learnt the hard way
This was
too.
probably a long while ago, but that was the last time I ever wanted to lose stuff, touch wood.
What sort of things went missing? Were there lots of projects that hadn't been out yet? Or?
Well, yeah, everything. I've kept everything from when I was a kid. So all my
mate,
schoolwork.
I want to hug you, but we're in times of COVID.
Yeah. All my schoolwork, all my designs, all my websites, all my connections, all my little games. I used to make games as a kid as well.
Some tears shed that day?
Yeah, definitely.
Mate, do you know what? I love opening up on that line as well, because I feel really guilty because I put a lot of energy, passion, time into what I do. But then when I get really angry or invested into it and I'm hitting the desk a bit or shed a tear, I feel guilty then. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, this isn't how normal people act. But it is.
That's important to you.
Your heart and soul's into it.
Yeah. Like, you could say it's just technology and we can replace things, but that is my world, technology and design and computerized files, then of course it's going to mean something.
I had it recently when it happened, and it wasn't even my project exactly, but it meant more to me because I've been working with the local healers.
Cool.
Great band, Ty Healy, Nay Loco, shout out, lovely lads.
Yeah.
And we'd made this music video for them, and it was honestly the best I've ever done. I know for a fact it was my best video. We'd done this. Have you heard of masking? I don't know if you have it in
like layers.
Yeah, you have layers. So worked out this technique where I've got the camera set up, and then if I get them to perform their parts in certain parts in the room, I could get them all in the same video.
Nice.
So Nay's talking to Ty at one bit, and they're all talking the same clip, and it just looked really cool. I was like, we've created something here.
So what happened to it?
And yeah, I'd been working on it for 3, 4, 5 days. Blood, sweat and tears, and suddenly I put it all on my hard drive, got full up, and so I'd put it on the hard drive, on external hard drive, sorry, and then with the knowledge I was going to bring it all back over or put it on another hard drive when I could afford one.
Yeah.
But my cat came in the room when I had it in, and it just like whacked it off because it wanted stroking.
Oh.
I remember that noise it made, and it was like.
Oh no.
And I already knew, and I tried to drag everything off of it, and it wouldn't go on my laptop. I tried mastering the files, and they wouldn't come off, and I was just like, this is really one of them moments.
Yeah.
The only sort of good thing that come out of that. The video wouldn't have been allowed out anyway, because we'd used this, which we'd asked for. We went to Nottingham, I can't remember what it's called, but we went to an art exhibition, got permission, did everything you should do, filled out all the forms, but then the artist actually saw the video, like, promo bit that I didn't bring the full video out because I couldn't, but we brought a little bit out just to say, look what's coming. And the artist actually got shared into it and saw it and was like, no, I don't want you using the art. And we thought we'd made all the right steps. So I was, at least in my heart, I was like, oh, well, it wouldn't have been out. So you know the local healers then? Is that through being in the...
Well, I've designed a poster for them as well. So I've done a poster for an event for Hip Hop HQ, run by Mouth. At the Golden Fleece, so I used to have that on my wall.
The amount of moments I've probably seen your work around Nottingham, you must have had a lot of stuff out there.
Well,
is it mainly Nottingham artists you have?
Yeah, Nottingham, Derby, Leicester, kind of surrounding areas, but I do a lot of stuff for shops and pubs and clubs and stuff as well. So a lot of the event posters, obviously done by myself, as well as the signs outside the front.
And you said the key word there, events.
Yeah, maybe we should chat about some of the event world as well.
Let's jump into that. I want to know where you're at with it, what the stance, because is it the underground scene, would you call it?
I would say so, yeah. Obviously, the Nest Collective, we play a lot of like variety of music and dip in and out of different scenes, but we run free parties and parties in the woods and stuff, and the music that we play,
so cool.
Drum and bass, jungle, is considered like underground as much as it's becoming socially acceptable.
How did that begin? What stage was it like, let's actually make this into something? Were you just out with your mates having good times for a bit?
I went to a lot of free parties over the years, and I see people's sound systems and their stacks and the environment, and I just kind of felt like, I love to skank, I love to dance, I really enjoy going to them, but I thought maybe I could do the same and get my friends on board and we'll all have a laugh together. So it was after a New Year's Eve party, I can't remember what party I'd gone to. I got home to my house, I was still a little bit ropey, still awake.
Yeah, you had a good time.
Yeah. And I went onto eBay and I saw some scoops, some bass speakers on eBay. And they were a reasonable price and it was someone in Derby. So I was like, well, why not? Ordered them, went to sleep, and then the next morning I remembered, I've ordered these things. The guy turned up literally about a day or two later with them off the back of his van, and I put them in my bedroom, and I was like, bloody hell, these are massive.
How much space did you have left in your bedroom?
Well, that was just the start of it. So that was just two. Eventually I built a third one, and then I got some of my friends, we went travelling around the country collecting second-hand speakers. There's a whole other world into rig resale. People selling and buying and building and custom designs, and so I just got what I could afford to begin with. I started stacking it up in my bedroom. Luckily I got a high ceiling, and eventually it was like I had about 1 meter squared left on the floor space. Everything else was speakers in my bed.
This is amazing.
And it was one of the best times ever. It was like the start of something. A lot of friends then took note and they wanted to get involved. I didn't have a clue about sound engineering. I just knew what I thought sounded good.
That's all it needs to be sometimes.
Yeah, but then suddenly people start to come together. So to begin with, like Phase X, I don't know if you ever met Tim Phase X.
Yeah.
He's a good old school jungle head in
Definitely.
the scene. He taught me a bit about just plugging things in and a little bit of mixing.
Would I have met him at the Maze?
Yeah, he's definitely an old school Nottingham jungle head.
Beauty.
I've been to parties with him over the years, and he helped like spread that world for me. And then a good friend of mine, Loz, he stepped in.
The man.
And we learnt about this technical side and sound engineering together, like how to improve on things, how to make things kind of visually and acoustically sound better.
It is interesting, isn't it, when you've got just a passion for something. Like, I can relate it to film or music. I just really enjoyed it when I started getting into it, but then when you get into the mechanisms and mechanics of it all, it becomes a new world, doesn't it? You're like, I never knew that was a part of it, or I couldn't even comprehend that before, and now you've like got a whole new world of learning to do.
Well, sound was like, that's it. It suddenly became a whole new world. Like vibrations of everything was more prevalent, and like it's an old school scene crossed with new school people. So I was always a big fan of like the dub reggae scene. If you go to Leicester, there's a lot of old school dub sound systems, Abashanti and Emperor and King Tubby, and there's all these scientists. There's loads of big names that visit Leicester, and I used to always travel with friends, and we used to just dance the night away in front of huge bassy systems that would shake your eyeballs and your chest. And I was just fascinated by it, because it's just a time where I could just lose myself, and just forget about anything and everything, and I just wanted to recreate that with my friends around me.
I felt that with your scene though, the vibe that the Nest Collective bring is so inclusive. I went to the parties probably 5 years ago, was my first introduction to it.
That was just when we were starting out.
And oh, amazing! So I've been there from the start. Then I can say,
Yeah.
I met you all, and I've never been in. First, I'm meeting the music scene, and I'm seeing Motor Mouth and Unknown Era, and I'm like, these guys just seem different. I've never. I used to be in the football scenes and the sporty scenes, so. And I've never really, truly been a part of a scene. I've just tried and dabbled with everything. So I've met the music lot, and I'm like, I like this. And then they took me to the ravey sort of side of things, and I was like, oh, okay, this is new. And I just want to know, like, you really being immersed in it. What is that like meeting them all up and down the country and the rigs and stuff?
Well, I probably have a similar progression as you did. Obviously, I went to a lot of raves, but I didn't really communicate with people. I've been to free parties in quarries, in caves, in big open fields, in forests. It's an amazing world traveling to these free parties. The energy and rush you get just traveling to them. Obviously, a lot of times it is illegal, and it is an underground world that still exists, and people try and keep the powers that be away from what we're doing. But just because it's that appealing world, wanting to do them parties ourselves, we got a good group of our friends together, 20 of us, and we used to just put on a party for fun and create this space where people would come along and they'd have a totally freeing experience, as in there are no rules. I'm putting the speakers down on the floor and I'm making this comfy environment, but I'm not going to tell you can't do this, you can't do that. Within the realms of, no loss, harm or fraud, as in don't commit any violence and so on, and we have to kind of self-police that as well.
It really is fascinating. It's like when you go into an art exhibition, there may be actually rules set up, but even when you walk in, there's a code. Like, you're not supposed to be legging it around and swearing and throwing things around. There's a code there. And is that known in your industry? And then are there some people that may come in and never experienced it before and then just sort of act out a little bit?
Well, obviously there's always wild scenarios at these free parties. There's no security man looming over your head. I've always said people act differently when there's no security man. There's no fence. You're not going to get tapped on the shoulder if you're taking a little something. But it's kind of... I don't know. It's really hard to explain the freeing feeling unless you've actually been there and done it.
It is.
I'm not expecting people to do cartwheels around the field, but some people do.
You're more than allowed to do that.
Yeah, but it's kind of, there are certain faux pas in the free party world. People turning up just to sell drugs, or just to sell NOS for a particular.
Yeah.
NOS has been a big
entrepreneurs coming in.
Yeah, but it's also about the mess they create.
Yeah.
People selling NOS with these little metal canisters and chucking them on the floor.
Yeah.
And we're all about leave no trace. So we're picking up the rubbish at the end and drawing to make sure that people also around us don't drop more litter, and just so we can leave the field as nice as we found it.
It feels really tribal when you're a part of one of your or any rave that I've been to. We're all in this. We're all in a field together. There's a big rumbling music being created. Everybody's just dancing and losing themselves, and I've never been anywhere quite like it. And maybe I'm just very lucky because I've had some of the best raves ever. But when I used to go out in Ripley, for example, it would be, you go to the Regal, and it's this, again, it's quite tribal but animalistic, a very different way. You've got girls dressed in a certain way, boys act in a certain way to attract that.
Yeah.
And it goes, only know, you know what you know, don't you? You experience what you experience, and I've been shown that through all my mates that I was around. Like, this is what we're supposed to do. So you go to these nights out, and it was like I'd question it all the time. Like, what's the point though? Like, it doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
And then you go somewhere like that, a rave or in a field somewhere in nature, and you're sitting down. First of all, I've met some guy with a crazy name. I sit down and he's told me a crazy story. I'd walk off into the night. It'd be a journey. It'd be an adventure.
And you're making of it what you want from it. Like, if you turn up to a free party and you're feeling a bit apprehensive and a bit aggy, and you're there to look at the girls, you're gonna get lost in your own head.
Yes.
And I've always been one to try and connect with these guys that do stand on the back, on the fringes. So we've got all this rave going on. It's dark, it's dingy. We've got a nice fire over there. There's crowds all about. The bass is booming, but there's always some guys that stood at the back.
Yeah.
Now, whether they're taking coke and they're feeling a little bit edgy, I'm not to know. But I really want them to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it. So I'll try and connect with them and try and make them feel less paranoid, or make them feel more at ease by just like, just trying to like let them enjoy themselves. So I'm not going to force. They don't have to dance. They don't have to sit next to the fire if they don't want to. But I want them to enjoy themselves in their own freedom way.
Such a nice thought about you, man, and who you are. Like, that's what I'm drawn in by, and I love that saying, your vibe attracts your tribe. And
yeah. So I've had some people at the end. It's like, tracksuit wearing young lad that you'd never like talk to on the street, probably get in a fight with when I was younger. He said at the end, he was like, you know what? I never thought I'd talk to you long-haired hippie lads, but you're just like us.
Mate,
you're just like me.
You've changed the perception.
Well, I was like, exactly. We're all just the same. We all dress a little bit different. We're in different cultures, but like you said, we are what we know.
Yeah.
And he's never really experienced that. And when
love
we all
your
got together and had
compassion to
that
it,
chat, it was amazing. Yeah.
I went to see Fat Freddy's drop last year.
Jealous.
Oh, mate, it was incredible. But it really annoyed me in this. We got to the front, obviously. We were like, right, I'm getting there. I love them, my everything. I discovered them through the rave scene people. I put it on.
The day after type
of
chill vibes.
Calm down. Been to see him, and there was this guy with his girlfriend who was just wanting to stand and vibe and not dance, and he was so happy doing that. You could see his eyes were closed and he was cool. Now, there was a woman here who drank too much, and I don't know what she was on, but she was going for it.
Oh, wait.
Okay, but then she went to this guy and with his girlfriend as well, and she's like, she was getting annoyed with him because he wasn't dancing, and she was like trying to shake his hips for him and all that. And then he went, and I felt so bad. He got to the front, but he just walked off and he couldn't be there. And I was like, why do you feel you got to dictate the way people should be and how they should act in certain settings?
Obviously, everyone wants people to experience things the way they experience it, and they want that enjoyment. But you can't infringe on other people. And like, if they're wanting to have their eyes closed and just vibe in the moment, you've got to let them be themselves and let them have that moment.
Be who they are. And what you're saying towards when you were speaking to that tracksuit wearer, and he had a new perception at the end of it, you are somebody that when we do get to chat, which isn't very often, I love your energy that you give out and what you promote. Have you been a bit of a thinker from day one and like from school? Were you always...
I'm definitely, in my heart of hearts, a timid introvert guy. Like, never really wanted to put myself out there. I'm a middle child of a big family. Often felt forgotten.
You've got family of 8 siblings, is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. The big step family. So, like, unfortunately, my mum passed away when I was young, but my dad remarried, and so suddenly I had a lot of brothers and sisters all around us. We all moved into this house where my parents had to convert the attic, and always lived in a bedroom with my brother type of thing. But I just kind of cracked on doing my own thing as a kid. So I don't think my parents ever really had to worry about me so much. But maybe I started to become a bit naughty when they didn't didn't know growing
picked up in your story, like, he's somebody that you may have had a fight with back in the day.
I did get into a surprising amount of scraps.
Because I honestly, man, I really couldn't imagine it from you.
But it's for the way that I look. So you come from a small town, I've got long hair, maybe wearing black and maybe skateboarding, but I didn't wear black that often. I like to be colourful.
Yeah.
But you'll get into fights with it. Back home where I came from was Telford. It was either you're a chav or you're an alternative.
The other.
And we used to clash all the time. So I've been involved in some of like the biggest fights in schools between year 10s and year 11s.
And are you just somebody that, as well as you've got a lovely heart and like a very nice persona, but you stand up for yourself?
Yeah. Well, this is it. Like, I've only ever started, I think, one fight. And that's when I've seen some guy punch my mate in the back of the head.
But it was, again, something that was unjust, and you
Yeah.
thought, I'm being involved in this because I want to stand up for what's right.
Totally. And I would never advocate violence in any way, but you've got to stand up for what you believe in, else you get flattened and pushed over. Now, that's kind of like the two sides, isn't it? A lot of time I'd like to stay quiet and not get involved in things, but over the years I've learned to kind of become an extrovert almost, to go out dancing and to make a big noise in the woods. And,
Boy, do you create noise.
yeah. But it's kind of, I don't know, I've changed over the years, and I still have some days where I don't want to go outside. I want to stay indoors. I don't want to play any music loud. I just want to be by myself. And then there are other days where I miss that social interaction so much, like especially now during COVID times. I miss it so much, and it's a hard life to balance.
You're saying in the car, like, you probably have the raves and the parties. Are they called? Yeah, free parties. I'm going to try and remember to say. You have them maybe twice a month?
Well, free parties are every so often. We do legal gigs as well, so we play in pubs and clubs and social clubs and centres and so on. But then we also do free parties at key times. So this would have been a free party weekend, if not a festival weekend.
Wow.
Because it's Bank Holiday Monday.
Sure.
So we would have been setting up maybe on Saturday, and you have the prospect to go till Monday if you want, if you've got the energy. But we do them, throughout summer as much as we can. We get involved in some giant link-ups. So we've been all the way up to Scotland, for example, and been involved where there's about 40 different rigs all up against massive, huge windmills.
Scotland's like one of my favourite places in the world to be as well. That's my retirement plan, Scotland.
It was definitely cloudy, let's just say that. It was a wet one. But the experience was like none other. You're linking up with about 25 vans, all in convoy in a Tesco car park, for example. And you're all driving in convoy under the dead of night, sometimes with your lights off. And the gates open magically somehow into the woods.
Is this one of them moments where you literally just have to have that moment of, wow, what have I done?
You go into military mode almost. We have walkie-talkies sometimes. So we're all kind of covertly going into the location or to site. But we always try and do it in places which are legal as such. So National Forestry Commission land, it's not necessarily illegal to trespass on there or to be there or to have picnics. So if a police officer ever comes along, we're having a picnic.
How many of you?
Well, it doesn't matter.
I've got a lot of mates, all
it's
right?
just my family, yeah. But
of every nationality.
it's changed from Margaret Thatcher. So repetitive beat music was made illegal, or there was some sort of law. I can't quite reference it right now. But she made it illegal to have gatherings over a certain size with repetitive beat music. And that was around the traveller era. So I have a lot of friends that are travellers, old school travellers, that live in converted buses and so on. And I love that world. And I think a bit of an inner part of me is a traveller as much as a city urban hippie. But back then they used to have real free parties, and festivals were free. There was no one charging for a festival back then. It's only been a modern invention of having to pay a festival ticket price. So a lot of the free party world comes from that, and just giving someone almost like a festival experience for free.
So you know quite a lot of the history then behind how it began and where it transcends
I used to go
from.
to festivals like Beautiful Days down in Devon, which is run by the Levellers. Now they're like a traveller band, and they got banned from several counties all across the country, like banned from London, banned from all these different places from even playing. Now they're just a bunch of lads, folk band, not like heavy aggressive, like
vilified
swearing or anything. But that was like grassroots hippie traveller promotion, anti-government perhaps. And that kind of just always stuck with me, so I've had that kind of feeling while doing free parties and gigs.
You know something wrong's going on when these sort of people have become the criminals.
Yeah.
You know, you can look at society and go, hang on a minute, right, so they're allowed to take money offshore and do X, Y, and Z and pocket money in back places or
Yeah.
do that, and then we're going to go and look at this person. And when you're the loveliest guy I know, I think, but as soon as you could be talking to a very, I say the word normal very lightly, but somebody that lives in conventional norms.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you say, I do illegal, the word illegal parties, there'll be quickly a thought or a bracket or a box you'll be sort of put in by some people.
Yeah.
And that, it really worries me that, because you could be, them people are so quick to box beautiful people, really nice people that are trying to do good things. And what were you saying about the levelers there? I don't understand how it took that journey of vilifying and putting these sort of people into boxes. Does that make sense?
It does seem mad, yeah. And obviously, certain like festivals, free parties, maybe they've left rubbish, or maybe they've caused a nuisance to the surrounding area. Maybe they've gone about it in the wrong way and they've been a bit like fuck the police type of attitude. And this does kind of bring like negative connotations to the word and the experiences, but you can't really have that judgment without experiencing these things. But you know, there's a ton of the community that would hate travellers or gypsies or anything, and you know, but until you meet these people and treat them as individuals or individual instances, then I don't know, I don't think you can make that sweeping judgment.
So powerful the role media's played on it though, really.
Oh yeah.
I again was talking the other day. There's a book come out recently. You may have seen this podcast, but about Charles Manson. And this is something that started out before as a bit of a conspiracy theorist that like sort of comes out a little bit. But he was employed essentially, and this has actually come out now. It's in a book. There's documentary being put out, and it really interesting. But during the hippie movement in America, he was somebody that to essentially make them look bad. Is it the IRA or what's the big company in America? The
CIA and
yeah,
IRS,
there you go.
Yeah.
They were giving him acid.
Oh yeah.
Taking him off to give him this mansion and this place to be, the cult, sending him off. But he'd bring people in. He was probably had psychotic episodes anyway.
Yeah.
But they were feeding him acid, feeding this cult acid, trying to vilify the hippie culture. And honestly, it was a podcast I was listening to recently. It was like, oh, there's a lot more to life. And
It still happens nowadays.
oh, God.
It really does.
It stabs me, man.
I got heavily involved in the protest world for a while. So I got especially deep into it when the Occupy movement came around in 2012. I decided to camp out on Market Square with my fellow human beings on Market Square, Nottingham, for 6 months.
6 months?
I was there for 6 months, yeah. For most of it, I was sleeping on the ground in a tent.
What age?
This is 2012, so this is 8 years ago now. It's actually been.
Was there a lot of coverage on this then?
Oh yeah, I've been in the newspaper, sat with councillors, taken to court.
I'm getting like pimples again show up, man.
But it was a worldwide movement, the biggest protest ever in the whole entire world. 3,000 cities across the world all came together. Everybody occupied like public spaces and tried to set up a platform for people to discuss the current world issues. Not to say our way is right, you must do this, but just to
question things.
Yeah, and highlight the emergency and the issue that's happening. So maybe it's resurged now as Extinction Rebellion, and that's got a bit of press, but the Occupy movement was a good bringing together of the old and the new. So a lot of the traveller community, still passionate about what's going on, then came into that world, and like younger people like myself. But I was there every day just to speak to people. I wanted to man the information point. Now that wasn't like to say I knew better than anyone else, but it was to have discussions like this. So I spoke to thousands of people on the streets of Nottingham. Some good, some bad, some racist, some not. But that taught me to have better like communication skills. So I wouldn't talk to like 8-year-old grandma about like certain things as I would maybe like a 16-year-old lad.
Sure.
And you kind of find what people are passionate about and kind of it's not necessarily just tailoring the conversation, but trying to find people care about what's personal to them and direct like impact. Like
It's like chameleoning, isn't it? It's like you change to that surrounding, but not change yourself. You're just equipped to.
yeah. So if you're in schools and you're talking to kids, perhaps maybe you talk to them differently to adults. Not purposely to say that we shouldn't be treated the same, but they might get more out of a conversation.
Completely. I remember going into primary schools. I just switched that back on. I'd go into primary schools a lot, and you've got this sort of like TV presenter, child's TV presenter vibe you got to bring. So you're like energetic all the time. Hello, everybody, and I can do that. Obviously, I can switch that on. It's a part of my character.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. So kids are like vibing and buzzing off of that, and we have the best sessions ever. And then I've gone into secondary schools and tried to bring that vibe to them, and they're literally just offended, really. It's they're looking at, why is he talking to us like that? And the first session that happened, I got hit hard. I was like, ooh, this is frosty. And I had to then quickly turn on real life experience things and talk about, like, the knife crime incident I've endured or experienced, and drugs, and we get onto certain real topics where they're like, oh, is being human now is come back round, and it's not just to go, I can be on your level, it's just like, I've grown up and I've been through different experiences. This is
and I got a lot of that from the protest movement, and everybody has their own personal take on things, and they maybe prejudge you when they first see you. So I might look like a smelly hippie with long hair on Market Square burning a fire every day in front of the police. And people can instantly tie you with a brush. So the moment we put up a sign about, I can't quite remember quite what it said, but it was about the jobless and homeless issue. That was reported in the local paper, and then it was tarnished or said that everybody in our protest group was jobless and were on benefits. So they instantly tried to discredit us. Where I was a freelance graphic designer, made some money, I can afford to spend some months on the street, still paying my bills at home, not claiming benefits. But everyone's like, you're jobless, blah, 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 go get a job and get off on our Market Square, because they've got this instant vilification back up from the media.
And it's such a problem, because therefore, like, people are being told a lot of the time what to think and how to think and what to feel. Like, they'll... I'll go from my granddad expected, but he's a avid Daily Mail reader, and he's really into. It's not nobody's fault.
Yeah.
He's really, so anything in there. If I question it and I say, well, yeah, maybe Jeremy Corbyn's made a mistake in his life or thing like that, but who hasn't? Yeah. But he's like, no, he's done all these terrible things, and I'm cool with that. But then so I don't want to say sort of people to box people again, but them sort of conversations are so easily dismissed. So when you question anything, it's like, no, you're just, and then they'll say hippie or avid thinker, or just making imaginary things up. Like, we can't live in this socialist idea. And it's like, okay, there's been lots of things that haven't been implemented correctly. There's been lots of times where these certain things haven't worked, but can we truly say that this is working well? Can we truly say... I think capitalism can work in an essence, but...
It's exploitation and corruption that comes in to change things.
There's lots of things that haven't been implemented correctly in my eyes, and I think we can always punch upwards and we can work better.
But these are definitely conversations that you still have to have. Like, a lot of... I kind of do signify myself as left, although I hate politics. Like, I don't really agree with anything. I'm an anarchist at heart. We should be able to rule ourselves. I can't tell you what's best for you, so how can you tell me?
Yeah.
That's my ethos, at least. But a lot of the left are now so easily offended and so quick to ignore the other side.
Yeah.
You can't just ignore somebody that has an opposing opinion.
What it is, what you said is conversation, and you going out and having them conversations, and that seems like the most integral, important thing for change for me, is honest conversations keep being shared.
Yeah. It's so easy for us to block people out of our lives now.
Yeah.
You can literally press it on a button and never hear from them again. It's so Black Mirror. But I've had conversations with EDL, BNP. I've had like bars swung at my face.
Tell us about that, man, because I've grown up in Ripley, which is supposed to be the heart of it. In essence, it's like Ilkeston, Ripley.
So I've heard, but I've never really like seen it around
I've
it?
encountered it at certain pubs that I've been to and clubs, because I think that was their meeting ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do remember, like, one time me and my dad are sitting happily watching an England football match, and there's one guy, and first you talk to him okay, and then suddenly he's talking about ragheads and X, Y, and Z, and you're like, oh, that isn't actually our vibe.
Yeah.
My granddad's from Persia, and he came to this Ripley and was the doctor, so everyone really liked him because he was fixing them up. But there was a lot of hate thrown around at that time towards the family that I've been told stories of.
I think a lot of it just it's something that's passed down generations, and a lot of these like people that have these thoughts and these like vocal, I don't know how to word it without saying something negative, but a lot of people that think this way, I think it's just about like nature and nurture. So people around them are also expressing this, and they think that's the only way to life. And yet they're all on, like, I don't know, watching football with multi-race team. They're all supporting like boxers or fighters or certain things in their culture. All the rappers and all these hip hop artists and mumble rap, etc. They're all from these multi-race backgrounds. How can you possibly go through life with hating someone that's different to you to begin with? Is hard to comprehend.
Is interesting now in the world of technology, the world of social media, like you say, because you can block somebody out, and most people do tend to block out an opposing thought, so they get rid of them. And then, like, I know lots of people in Sarah that says, oh, racism doesn't exist anymore, or they believe there isn't a thing, but they've managed to what's the word, like, filter it out their lives.
So I've been trying to work on a bit of art recently. Been trying to illustrate an echo chamber.
Okay.
So this is exactly like pointing on this at Facebook or social media has become an echo chamber for a lot of people. You block out all these people on the other side that you don't agree with, and you just hear the same things. Like, suddenly now racism doesn't exist.
Yeah, I've
because
heard
I don't
that.
see it online.
Yeah.
It's like, well, unfortunately, I know we're white, middle class, working class people, but of course it exists for certain people. All these worlds are existing around you that you just don't see. It's you got to take people's experiences and faith that they know what's going on around you. And I hate getting in arguments about, I don't know, sexism, racism, politics, etc. with people, for it then to lead to such an abrupt end. Oh, I don't want to speak to you anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore. And I always try and keep the conversation open. I've fallen out with a few people over my time, and it's really hurt me. Like, I've had maybe about 2 people that I know have blocked me on Facebook throughout the whole time, and it hit hard. And I was like, is this because of the way Facebook's grabbed me, or is it really because I hate the fact that someone thinks of me in such a specific way without finishing the conversation?
I don't understand why we have to hate one another on opposing thoughts, though. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think the beauty of life is all of us having a different of opinion. It just, when it becomes like hurting other people or becoming dangerous to have those opinions, is when they really need questioning. But for us to go, well, have you thought of it in this light? Have you thought about thinking this way before, and not having to that always crescendo to a massive "you're an idiot," and policing thoughts? I don't.
Well, a lot of this, I have to say, probably came from a background of me opening up or changing through the use of drugs. So there was a big part of my life, still part of my life now, where I've taken a lot of drugs over my time. I can admit
I
it.
think we can get into that, yeah.
If it's okay.
Yeah, please do. I want this to be an open space. Whereas we had this conversation before, I've got friends that are drug takers or have done in the past. And in my mind, doing the podcast, I was like, what's the podcast for, and what is the platform? And having them discussions, there's some people that pop in my mind, and I think, I wonder what they think to that side of me. But the real side of me goes, you know what? It's been a part of my life, and in truth, the most changing part of my life and the most integral part of my life. So I want these stories to be known and be told, or in a certain light.
Yeah, I feel that, man. Like, I've definitely thought a lot about fear of judgment from people, like, especially in my working world. Or if they think I smoke weed every day, maybe they think less of my work, or that I'm lazy, or I'm not putting all my heart into it. But that's not how I see life, and that's not how I see drugs. Obviously, there have been times where I've abused it and it's been a detriment to my life, but other times it's totally changed my life. 10 years ago, taking acid and mushrooms and these other psychedelics really did change me as a person.
What was the first time? Can you remember your first?
I can't remember my specifically the first, but I remember the first psychedelic, and that was LSA.
Okay.
It's
A. I've never heard the A.
yeah, so it's a
And what's the D in the A?
it's a sister to LSD, but it's only about 20% the strength.
Okay.
And you could buy it down at your local Wilco's. Not anymore, but you could do. Not anymore, but you could do. At the
I was
time.
going to go, what are you doing later? No, I'm joking.
So we used to go down, buy these seeds, grind them up, and did it with very close friends in a place that were comfortable. And when you see the world moving and these colours and music come out of your speakers, you can physically see it. And the thoughts that you're having at the time, it's I don't know, it's maybe not necessarily life-changing in that moment, but when you think about it the next day or even a week or a month later, you can really see the change in yourself.
Me and Chrissy were talking today, and we were discussing psychedelics in particular because there's a Netflix documentary we're going to watch recently all about it, and it had some of our favourite, like Sting was on there, David Bowie, lots of our favourite artists, and we're like, that looks amazing, we need to check this out. But one thing we spoke about today was what it does is really brings out that person and really embellishes who you are to start with. For me, like, I'm quite a thinker, and I'd look at something and I'd be thinking, and I'd get off into this world of thinking and layering things and trying to work out what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And then I go into another thing, and I was like, this must be doing this to everybody. But I've got a friend that's a real artist, and she'd just go into a room and she'd just see art in everything. So she'd just constantly like go, oh, that'd make a great picture, and look at something else and be like, oh no, I could work from that. And I do think, like, if you all go into the same room, it just amplifies who you are and brings out your perception.
Yeah, like, not just psychedelics, but I took a lot of Mandy as well, and it's very close feeling, and that I think really did bring out some creative thoughts in myself, and that's when I kind of dipped into the art world as such, because I just wanted to kind of see how I could bring that psychedelia type of colourfulness to some of my art to begin with. Like, but I'm not a true illustrator or anything by heart, but we used to draw while we were on acid, and I have to say these are some of the best drawings I've ever done in my life. Whether that's just because you're a little bit high or not, I don't know, but there was some real magical experiences, and seeing my friends kind of, it's that similar free party feeling. Everyone's free and lifted, and everyone's just, I don't know, different to conventional norms.
Could you think of that feeling you got though to doing the LSA? Like, what drove you into the store thinking, I want to experience something new?
I think it just must be the curiosity. I went to university,
Yeah.
and you learn that everyone's not the same as you quite quickly. I've been in this little town for a while. I thought there was only skaters or chavs. Now there's all these different types of people, and kind of like, I just wanted to find out what else there was that I didn't know. It was that first knowledge almost. And there's a whole other side to drugs that I first villainised when we were kids, and maybe rightfully so. For some of the higher ones, I would never touch any of the top level drugs. I wouldn't agree with it and wouldn't recommend anyone. I've lost friends,
It's just
unfortunately,
like,
to it in the past, so it only brings nothing but trouble.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of curiosity for psychedelics, especially because there's no recorded death fatalities in a lot of them. Like weed and LSD, technically no one's ever died from that drug itself. You know, if you're going to take it, I wouldn't take it at the top of a building and try and have fun up there. Take it on the ground. You don't want to fly. But
I've heard them stories.
yeah, but it's not all roses and rainbows. When you take it, you may well experience some bad trips, as they call it. But this is part of building you as a character. It's like we're on a nice farm now with horses around. What are you going to tell someone that falls off the horse? You know, you're not going to say never go on a horse again. You know, it's bad for you. You want to try and get them back on the horse. So I've had a bad experience, for example, where I thought about so many aspects in my life, and I'm going down a spiral in my head while I'm tripping. And then suddenly I'm sat on the toilet, and the toilet's turning into a witch's hut.
Okay.
And the door's going miles back, and it's going all colourful, and there's green slime coming down the walls. But then instantly you can change your own universe and change your own mindset
I think that was the most powerful thing I learned.
just by a quick little change. So I whistled to myself, and suddenly it all went away. But I reflected on that point of like, of the fact that, yeah, you literally can shape and create your own universe around you. And I saw it as that everything's vibrating and everything's existing around you. You are just the observer.
It was like my favourite quote that I found recently, and somebody literally said it as simply as, you create your own reality. And I remember hearing that, and that is essentially taking something mind enhancing for me. That was what I learnt the most. I'll tell you a bit of my experience, but I got to a really depressed point in my life, like beyond belief, and it was when I broke up with a girl, come from this separation period of my time.
Yeah, I can feel you.
We've all been there, and I went really more wild than most of my mates. They all had like a week or 2 week breakup period, and then they went back on the scene and they did their
try and
thing.
get yourself out.
I have lots of scars from my childhood, lots of scars from my past, which made me like really invested in people, and this girl in particular. And when we broke up, I just went off the rails completely for months and months. And I got to the point where I sat down and I wanted to just get rid of the pain in any way I could. I was just like, I've got to finish this. And I would have been one of them statistics, one of them numbers of people that would have been just, wasn't he so nice, but he ended up killing himself.
I'm so glad you're still here, Mikey. I love you.
I'm being full on truthful. Like I was moments away from it, and I know I was, because I was so set on it. I was like, right, this will end it, and this will get rid of the pain. And I need to find this guy because he saved my life. But I was looking at the least painful ways to do it on the Google, and obviously you've got all Samaritans and things like that come up. And suddenly, on this forum, this guy sort of said, "Oi, mate," I'm talking to everybody, but it's like, before you do anything daft, have you thought of X, Y, and Z? And it was like LSD for me. But I thought, what is the point, like, of not trying that? If I've been through everything else that I think I've been through, if I've tried everything I could try, give that a go.
Well, they use it for, they've done a lot of experiments with mushrooms, MDMA and LSD for antidepressant treatments.
I've
There's
heard
a lot
a
of
lot
studies
for
out
MDMA
there.
recently. It seems to be even being talked of a legalization in America at the moment.
Especially for the soldiers and PTSD.
Yes, there you go.
I reckon it really helped me. I used to be very inward on myself. I wouldn't express my feelings. I wouldn't tell you if something really bad has happened. But ever since doing MDMA and acid and so on, that has allowed me to be more open and communicative and think about these situations and maybe talk to someone, be it a professional or even just a friend, while we both experience this. And I think it has a lot of beneficial effects for a lot of people.
Completely. And that was it. On that day, the bit of the story, I got home, I knew a guy. I found a guy.
You can find it.
And I came home, and I remember I was pretty much on suicide watch as well, and my dad was in this room. And I got that and took it. He didn't realise. And I just looked up and I was like, "Oh no, Dad, you're going to have to go." And he's like, "Why?" I was like, "I've taken some acid and your head's turned into a pineapple." And I literally, just the look he gave me, he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry." So he was like, "All right." The amount of worry and upset I must have put them through.
Yeah,
but, I'd done my thing. And I was in this room for the 12 hours, and it was the most magical, insane, terrifying experience I've ever had.
Yeah.
And that towards the creating reality, and this is why I've got Blue the Bear on my arm, but I got to a point in it where I was going to die, and I knew in my heart, I was like, this is it, this is my moment. And I'd just gone into the bed and held up, and I was like, right, what do I want to go to? And I put on the Jungle Book, because I was like, that seems like a sensible option.
Yeah.
But during this, it was the moment Blue the Bear started doing his song, and he said this beautiful lyric, and he said, "If you're looking for something that can't be found, when you find out you can live without it, go along not thinking about it." And I was
like
looking
that,
for
yeah.
all these answers, and he just said, "Stop thinking you're never gonna know. You can't find it. Go on, live." And honestly, I looked up, and the room was angelic. It was the most beautiful thing ever. And I got up and I started dancing, and all through the whole experience, I was too scared to get out of bed.
Yeah,
But
but
I changed.
something's
That changed the reality. Something goes, "Oh, this is beautiful. Life can be this, or life can be that." And I felt the polars in one night.
yeah,
And it was so incredible, but it was just that feeling that I wanted again and again and again. And I am probably an addict in my essence. There's something aside of me, and I know can't really get addicted to psychedelics, but you can maybe
you can definitely get addicted to the feeling and the
yes.
gratification you get from going into that world.
Exactly. And I ran down that for a while, and
Yeah,
it
I've
did.
been there.
I fully lost myself then, and that's why I want to do these podcasts, or why I want to talk to people, or why I want to learn more, is because I think they're such important conversations to have. Because I didn't have the truth. I never had the honest information. I was just, you do that and you're never part of the family, or you do that
Yeah.
and you're a bad person.
And this is what I first thought, definitely growing up, and that's what you're told by your kids, and but that's what you tell your kids in schools, and that's what they teach. But so many people have become the people they are today that I know around me, helping out in community centres, running youth groups, being like amazing artists and so on. They've all learned something from drugs, and you can easily lose yourself in the addiction side of things. But we got to think again to the Jungle Book thing. You can change your life, and it can be one thing or the other.
And it truly, and I do think that answer was therefore always inside of me, but honestly, I wouldn't have found it. If it wasn't for that, for me, I wouldn't have had that answer. So for me, it did help me, but I do think people can go on to find the answers and live their experiences and become conscious thinkers or anything without it. But I do think for those certain amount of people that did get to the end goal, did get to the end of the road and go, this is, I need new experience, I need something else. It's a tool, and I do believe it can be used as a tool.
On the flip side, like I did the same for a long time. I would be taking acid or psychedelics all the time. I counted one year where I literally slept for only 4 Fridays of the whole year.
Wow.
On amphetamines and acid every weekend. But then it started to change me as a person. I feel maybe my speech has never really recovered either from a lot of drugs that I've taken. Not that it's that bad to begin with, but
Not noticed, no.
for a long time I felt really mumbly.
Okay.
I couldn't get any words out. I would stumble, mumble, feel almost like a pisshead would be in the peak of his night. And then eventually I dipped into research chemicals for a while. We tried everything we could order online, literally everything. Some of them were amazing. I felt myself as a guinea pig in this world where these Chinese makers are making these drugs, shipping them over, and I was just trying things for the first time. But I always had the aspect as a knowledgeable drug taker is a good drug taker. So you need to research these things online, see what you're taking, measurements, what effects it's had on other people. There's a website out there called Arrowhead where it's really helpful for people to get experiences from other people quite truthfully. And it'll tell you what's in these compounds and so on. So I learnt these things, but even a knowledgeable drug taker could still be silly.
Yeah.
So I've taken a dose. I've only taken this drug once before, 4-HOMIPT.
Okay.
Taken it once before, and then I went for a night out in Leicester, and I just got lazy, and I figured, I couldn't be bothered to sort it out properly.
Right.
Dark in the smoking area, so I just took my whole lot that I had with me. And it was about 3 or 4 doses worth.
Right.
I'd had this one dose once before in the woods, and it was already really, really powerful. The next thing I remember, about 5 minutes later, I was going for a wee in the toilet. I was laughing at myself in the mirror. Just caught sight of my face, and I looked really giggly and funny. I was laughing, and then that's the last thing I remember.
Seriously.
I woke up 2 days later in hospital after having a cardiac arrest.
Wow.
So technically, my heart had stopped at some point. But I woke up kicking my legs in Leicester Hospital. I felt my pockets. I still had my tobacco pouch on me, I still had 5 pre-rolled spliffs. It was the best feeling ever.
Waking up there and just like, yes.
But I hadn't even started my night. I hadn't enjoyed it. But little did I know, and I thank them ever since, is 2 of my good friends, Anthony and Ross at the time, had took me to hospital. I think we went in the back of an ambulance. But the police station's also attached to the hospital in Leicester. So they're there tripping off their faces on acid themselves. I hadn't taken acid, but they're there tripping in a hospital, like me potentially dying off some random chemical that even the doctors never heard of before. They didn't know how to treat it. They didn't know what to do. The doctor was just like, 4-HO what? I'm just listing off this chemical name. And I feel so bad for them, but, you know, they helped me out. And ever since that instance, I think my life has been different.
What did it present to you?
Just made me reflect on myself a lot more, what drugs I was taking and why I was taking it. Like, reasons that I was depressed, perhaps, why I was using Mandy. Not only just to have a good time, but a lot of the time people are using it as a crutch to mask something or to deal with emotions that they can't properly deal with. Yeah, we all take drugs recreationally and we all have a laugh, but there are different sides why people carry on taking drugs. But it allowed me to like look back on myself a little bit and kind of see, why am I doing this? So I've taken psychedelics a lot less ever since. But it's not out of fear, it's just out of like, I've almost gotten everything I could ever need from it. I've had not only ego death, but I've had real death as well.
Yeah. There's a lot you can learn from both of those. So.
Yeah. But and as well as like, after the fact, we've lost friends to harder drugs perhaps, and depression, which have them taken drugs to end it with. And it's a crushing feeling when losing friends to drugs, and you never really want to pass that nonchalance, you never should think about it, just take it, have a good time. There's always got to be a sense of caution. I've never really wanted to just instill, like, you know, be easygoing, just do whatever you want. I've always wanted to give a little bit of guidance to people, which is why I've always invited people to take acid for the first time with me. I've guided a lot of people through it.
Would you be a sober minder? Like, would you be there? Or?
Probably not.
No.
But I would normally be able to handle it better, so I could speak to people in a calming way.
Yeah.
If they're having a bad time, I can calm you down and just allow you to chat and or distraction at least.
And that was a great point of where I got to in my life too, was getting to a side where I could reflect and be like, right, that time where you reached for something else, what did it teach you? Why did you reach? Why were you depressed? And I got to think a lot more, and then I went down that rabbit hole, hit the wrong side of it, you know, the wrong stuff it can, like the psychosis, the schizophrenia, had lots of scars left from it, and I had a real dramatic end to it. Like I told people, like, tasered on it. Like I had a full-on huge experience happen, and I had to I'd never go out for about a year after that. I had to I had severe like paranoia, so many things where I didn't want to leave the house. I thought people were trying to poison me.
I've had a close friend go through a similar thing.
It was like, have you seen that film Shutter Island? Yeah. It was that. I'd gone through, and I'd not even seen that film until like a few years later, and I was like, oh my god.
only just recently rewatched it. It's
really powerful, and I'd really felt that. So there is that side of where it can take you too. And it was the lack of knowledge. I didn't have a clue about it, so I just kept going down and feeling and trying and going, and I came out with scars. But at the end of it as well, when I've been sober for probably 2 years now, and I've not touched anything at all other than maybe a drink now and then for a birthday party. But I feel like my normal self again, normal said in brackets, but I've got this calm, conscious mind again where I can work things out, I can see where everything goes.
And I can tell.
Yeah.
It's not a case that you were like a mess or anything like that in the past, but look what you've created.
It's calmed me, and I'll get to look back at that experience that I had for them few years and go, right, that's what I needed out of that time. I needed the crazy. I needed to see what life can be as well. And it can settle you too. It can really ground you and go, these are the twists life can show.
Yeah. So unfortunately, living in a city, drugs are everywhere. And for a lot of our youth, like, they don't know any better. They maybe see some people a bit older. It was MCAT for a while, like a few
We had
years
that.
back.
That was big.
Anyone and everyone was taking that.
Oh, it's a smelly drug, that.
And it was stinking the streets.
It was
out,
horrible.
yeah. You walk into people's houses and it used to stink.
All my mates that like just on their clothing at school were like their little jackets and blazers at school.
I can't imagine being at school with people taking MCAT.
Yeah,
like
genuinely.
my school was a little bit more sheltered, or a little bit older, let's say, a lot longer ago. That just wasn't around. But it changed a lot of people and introduced a lot of people into the drug world. But not everybody necessarily needs to dip their toe into it.
That's
Like,
what I want to keep reiterating.
It's not. It's definitely not for everybody, and I wouldn't promote it in any aspect. But I haven't really been sober for about 10 years. I do smoke cannabis every day. Maybe it is an addiction, but it helps ground me, helps make me more creative, helps focus me, helps me allow me to be my best self. And I can only wish for it to be legal and the stigma to be dropped in the UK, as there's a big campaign for it. But it's not quite on the same par as the rest of them. And that's my crutch.
It's being constantly conscious and questioning of the steps you're taking and how it is impacting and implementing on your life. Like for me, when I was smoking a lot of weed, I didn't have honest conversations with others or myself. So I wasn't sitting and going, is this actually not necessarily having to benefit, but is it making me a nice person?
Yeah.
Is it hurting my pocket? Is it? And I'd have these questions, and when I'd answer them all, I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. But truthfully, that it was damaging a lot of the sides of just my life. But I know so many friends that function perfectly with it. I know so many friends that are beautiful people on it. And I hate it when people, again, just tarnish a brush over people.
I call myself a functioning stoner.
It's perfectly...
So I hold up a job. I do things in my spare time. I get involved with loads of projects and work from home, and I'm still stoned all day, every day. But that's not for everybody. Some people will take it and they'll sit on a couch and never do anything.
And I don't take it at all now, but I have a lot of little like drugs and substances that I have that are legal. So I drink alcohol. I know how horrible that can make me at times. Like vodka, go on a night out, I'm just a nutter. I don't know what it's doing.
I've just never been a massive drinker. I
Yeah.
can drink, but it's just never been the one for me. And I don't know, we could go on a massive rant on how drinks destroy society.
Yeah, oh God, I
things
wrote
that
a
happen
poem
at
about
home.
it.
Yeah, this is it. And it's really unfortunate that it's so supposed to be acceptable, whereas the other world isn't. But
It's changing times, man. I'm reflecting to it all because there's so many avenues and conversations to have in the world of substance and drugs and what's legal, what isn't. And I think my ideal is for a more honest conversation to be brought about with lots more people. And, you know, the places like Portugal and places where it is working, it has been legalised and
America.
they're taking it safely. Yeah, and it's really benefited the economy. And we're like
they're
not
building
looking
schools
at it.
and schools and hospitals
Colorado.
in America from the taxes that they get from it. And all these high-tech executives, they're all microdosing on mushrooms and they're all smoking.
My favourite person of all time, I think, is Mike Tyson. just got a real, not my favourite. There's lots of people out there that I aspire to, and there's elements that I don't of him, but he you know, passionate
People
guy.
have these backgrounds that, you know, they wouldn't have ever come out to say that they smoked weed 10 years ago.
And he's a guy, and he runs a farm now in America. But have you heard him talk now? Honestly,
I don't know if I've catched him recently.
he's the calmest. Like, he's just like, well, you know, this side of my life is now, and he's just.
Was he on Joe Rogan at one
Yes,
point?
he was on a Joe
so I
Rogan
did
one.
see
I
it,
was
yeah.
listening, like, this guy's been through so much, and you know, he smokes weed. It's completely changed his life. It's made him such a calmer, more rational, happier person. Why do people have to just go, no, it's illegal, bad, and then
It's
go?
again social conditioning and a bit of background from the government.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, people haven't followed the science. As in, surely we all want some sense of leadership or government that is backed by science. But they've gone too far now to admit that they were ever wrong. So the legalisation will come out in a privatisation sense, and it's just a shame, I think. But we can only hope that social norms progress.
We're getting there, brother. I mean, like we say, we won't be having to talk in 5 years' time. Remember what Elon Musk said. So a lot of things are changing. Ash, I know I've got somebody coming for a 3 o'clock slot, but I want you to just go on to a bit of like what Nest Collective's plans are next,
Sure.
and the parties that may be foreseeable and if people can attend. So
Yes. So obviously, it's troubling times at the moment. The event industry's been crushed. Like, there's no live events happening. There's live stream world now. Everything's on live stream online, which is great that artists can connect directly with their audience. But we run a sound system and a stage. It's all about the physical. And we've got this warehouse, which we've got this creative space that we've developed over time with the Taconta guys in Nottingham and Resonant Sounds. And we all put on joint parties, be it legal or illegal. And maybe this weekend we would have been out in the woods putting on a free party for people. But the future's a bit uncertain at the moment. With COVID, the first event that I've really seen properly scheduled is September.
okay.
So can only say fingers crossed that September's the time for us all to emerge. But it's called Submerged,
Yes.
the event. But and this guy Stuart is running that event. He's a top bloke, and I wish him all well. But there's a lot of talk in the background for us to the Nest that we're only going to do it when the time's right and people are really willing. We don't want to put anyone in danger.
Yeah.
Don't want to be held as being irresponsible.
Yeah.
And we should have been doing Mayfest this month for yourself. A little farm party.
Man,
Would
I
have
was
been amazing.
very, very disappointed about all that. But again, yeah, that's the time. So we just got to take it on the chin.
But for now, we've decided to do live streams every 2 weeks. We've tried to do a similar thing of putting live bands on as well as DJs.
I've been carrying on with watching what you're up to. Yeah.
It's a familiar gig feeling, so we can all
Where,
have a
where
drink
can people
still.
find that? Is it on the Nest Collective page?
Nest Collective Facebook.
Nest
There is
Facebook.
another Nest Collective on there, but we're not them. They're from London, but we have once done a festival with them. There was 2 Nests at the same place. We saw some cables on the floor and it said Nest on it. We're like, oh, these aren't ours. Followed them back and got to someone's
followed
tent.
the cables. You found the trail.
They had a big marquee and they were the other Nest.
Amazing.
So we've done something called Nest Burn. It's like a Burning Man festival in the UK, where there's no money on site, only trading. You can't give me something in the expect of something in return, and you can't sell me anything. But it's an amazing festival, about 6 days, 7 days long. You walk around, people literally give you booze, they give you food, they give you a performance or an event or a stage or a cheese maze.
I'm getting shivers.
It's an amazing place to be.
On the
And
festival season so much.
It's the freest festival I've ever been to. People are walking around naked. It's the most
Doing their
hippie
thing.
you've ever been.
Doing their thing.
And we want to carry on doing a similar thing. Don't have to be naked, but
But you can.
but we want the freedom aspect to stay in the Nest. So it's all been about creating a platform for people to express themselves. So I'm not a musician myself. I just want to create the stage of the platform for you to come and
To
perform.
express and do.
And I'd love to do that in the future, but the Nest is suffering a little bit at the moment.
Guys, you're listening in, Knots Heads, people of all areas of life, the Nest Collective.
We're not about to do a fundraiser because that's just not who we are, and I feel too humble, or maybe it's just my personality not to ask for money. But if anyone would like to support us in any way, be it a service or monetary value, to ensure that we're still there after lockdown, then it would be massively appreciated.
Well, this is a time that all those people back in the day that have just enjoyed your vibes, gone to your scenes, experienced that. People do need to come together now, Ash. Like, people do need to go.
We decided to put together an album. Sorry to interject.
No,
We
that's
decided to
wicked.
put together an album instead of just a live stream. So we called it the Nest Collective Community LP. You yourself feature on it.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. Yeah.
But it was lovely to reach out to yourself and other people to try and put this thing together, because it's a chance for people to get something in return, so they get this music to keep forever, stream anywhere in the world and play, but also be able to donate. donates directly to local artists as well as ourselves. And you're not just supporting these big time artists on Sony BMG or whatever. You're supporting the person around the corner that's going to put food on his plate.
It's integral.
Yeah, and I feel we really need to support these type of people because, well, these are the people we have the most fun with and we have the most access to and can create these experiences with. And as much as we're about maybe getting some big time acts in the future, it's always been about supporting local artists. And there's so much talent in Nottingham and surrounding area.
It's a
amazing.
great creative hub, isn't it? Everyone's together on it.
This is the reason why I still live in Nottingham, is because of the music scene and the social side. Before I even got involved with it, I knew I wanted to stay for it.
Well, it hurts me to hear that Nesta's struggling in these times as well, and I do, never feel guilty asking for money when it's needed because you've done so much for people. You
but
know
the Nest
that.
is literally a creation of people getting involved.
Yeah.
So we've put on legal gigs over time. £3, £5 entry instead of these big books, and all that money has gone straight back into the Nest. Me and Loz have maybe taken about 30 quid, 40 quid over 5 years.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Everything has gone back into the Nest to make it what it is today. Now it's not the biggest and the best sound system or the most clean. We're still a bit rough around the edges, but that's half of our charm. We're guys that like to be in nature, and it doesn't have to be totally prim and perfect. But it has been a development out of people's input and their money, and we just want to give it back to the people all the time. So as soon as we can do a party, the better.
The most invaluable, the most valuable, thing that somebody could give me is a beautiful memory, something that I can reflect back to my friends over, talk about with a drink, and say, "Can you remember that time?" And you've done that for thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, just thousands of people will go, "Can you remember that time we were at that sound system? We had that moment. We did that thing," and it's just the most valuable thing. So for you to be able to tick along and keep on going and keep on taking your sound and energy and music to places is just so integral in what we need after this COVID happening.
Yeah, well, we'd like to think so, definitely. And being an organizer, promoter, and sound system owner, like, the best feeling really is, we spoke about this before, but the best feeling really is setting up this event, creating the stage, setting up the sound, making it a visual and audio show. Like, the best feeling is when you stand back and you just see a group of people or the whole crowd just enjoying themselves, smiling, dancing, expressing themselves, and however they are, the artists as well. It's the best feeling ever.
Let's do it.
But it's hard to express because I feel a bit big-headed. It's like, oh, look what I've done. But
you're doing the perfect thing.
It's not about
perfect
that.
Thing.
It's literally, I want to enjoy it. Like, I love to dance. I've created these speakers so I can dance.
That's all it needs.
If people are going to join, all the better.
Guys, I'm so sad. This is shutting off soon.
That's okay.
I see the battery telling me it's dying. We've been in and on, and I know I've got one guest coming. So Ash,
it's been brilliant to talk to you, buddy.
I love you so much, man. You're such a cool guy.
I love you too. You're a genuine fella.
We've got a lot of conversation to have. Would you come back on?
I would love to come back.
I think the little bits we've tickled on, there's so many avenues we can dive into as well. So people can find you and your digital
We're on Instagram,
business.
Facebook, the Nest Collective.
Nest Collective.
Or you can find myself personally on my Facebook, Ashleigh Jones,
Ashleigh
or
Jones.
website, ash-jones.co.uk.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, man. Again, thank you for being a part of the Old Farm Bus, back of the bus sessions. Thank you for joining. If you've listened in this long, hello, probably me nan again.